Well, welcome everybody today to a very special podcast. We are talking with Stefani Fox Jackson today, and she's been a salon owner, an educator, a speaker, but she's a recruiting marketing expert, and she's got some great insight today that we're going to dive on into. So, welcome, Stefani.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So kind of talk to us about your journey in a little more detail, because where you're focused all your time and energy right now is exactly what's needed, and that's why you're here. So what kind of led up to where you're at today?
Yeah, well, you know what is just wild is I've been doing this work for, gosh, about 8 years. And 4 years ago, it kind of pivoted to attracting talent. And then here we are in today's world where it's this massive pain point. So what led me here? Gosh, I've been in the beauty industry about 19 years and have run through a variety of roles. I've worked for manufacturers. I've worked as an independent consultant with a company, and then into my own space where I kind of really got laser focused on team building. I was a salon owner for 9 years, top 200 salon for 6 of those. And just in a place where after the COVID pandemic happened, I had this incredible opportunity show up actually to sell my business. A buyer showed up. We were thriving. It was the right time. I had been really investigating building a recruiting technology actually for the beauty space. And I found myself in a situation where I have 2 little boys and I had 2 businesses, and I had to say, like, do I want a third business and do all of this? And I just knew the answer was no. And so the salon is the place that I knew I had to make a little shift. And when that buyer showed up, I said, okay, let's sell that and then be able to make the investment I need to make to build this recruiting technology. So I own Talent Match. Talent Match is a team building agency in the beauty space. And then I'm currently building Matchable, which is a product that supports Talent Match. And it's a tech that's going to help all of you salon owners get matched with the right talent and hopefully make it easier, because I know how hard it is.
For sure. And what I love about Talent Match is that it's all numbers driven. So kind of talk about how the Talent Match came about, and then we'll dive into some of these statistics.
Sure. So Talent Match came from my personal love of data. And as a salon owner, I found myself struggling with what everybody struggles with, which is team building. You know, how do you find the right talent? How do you keep talent? And for many years, like the first 4, and then even previous to that, the number one thing that salon owners struggled with was keeping talent, because we were feeling all the disruption from the suite industry, really, which hit us hard like 2003, 2004. Then it kind of caught on, and it was like that, 2010 range, everybody just got slammed. And so my research really initially started with, how do we keep talent? And I knew that when I talked to all my salon owner friends, all of us were guessing. I mean, just straight up like, here's what I'm trying, here's what I'm trying. And I just thought, why don't we ask them? Like, why don't we ask the workforce? And so I really started conducting initially these very mini surveys. I do a lot of keynotes, I go to a lot of schools, and I just started asking questions. And then that just blossomed over the years. And I started guiding the work inside of Talent Match based on that feedback. And I saw it shift, like I said, about 4 years ago, to be very much, I can't find staff. Like, yes, keeping them is the second pain, but first and foremost, I can't even find them. And so I thankfully, through amazing network and connections, have a really great affiliation with both the Paul Mitchell School Network and the Aveda School Network. And I built a survey with the support of an outside organization that helps build, surveys. And I was able to conduct a very robust survey with the workforce directly. And so we did our first one of the size and magnitude in 2020. And then we conducted one for 2021. And we had over 20,000 students and stylists respond. And it's just been wild. And it's that data that was like, okay, we literally got into the heads of the people we employ. They tell us how they find us, why they pick us, why they leave, what they want from us. I'm about to release the 2021, which has shifts from 2020. And I know we're going to talk about some of that today, but I just like go to the source. That's where I was at. And I'm such a data nerd. And I was so sick of all the, what I lovingly call BS opinions, my own included. I'm like, I don't know the answer. If I did, I wouldn't have this problem. So I'm like, well, I'm going to ask them. And then I'm going to bring that, to all of you so that you have the solution too, because it sucks when you can't find team and you need them.
For sure. And I love that. And one of the first things in the 2020 beauty workforce survey that you had is like their short-term plan. 69% of the stylists want to work in a salon right after school, and 71% of them wanted to booth rent. Why?
Yeah, so let me break that down. So when I asked them, like, what is your plan after school? Because I was talking to salon owners who kept telling me all the instructors tell students to go booth rent. Like that's what's happening. They're not coming to us, they're booth renting. And I thought, I don't know if that's true. Like, let me test this. And so I asked the students, what do you want to do when you graduate? 69% said, when I graduate, I want to work as an employee. Then the next question was, do you want to booth rent eventually? That's where that 71, is it 71? Now I'm mixing up my 2021 numbers, said yes, eventually. So you take that 69% and then it filters down, and a significant portion of them say, but I do want to go rent eventually. You're like, just put the knife in now. Yeah, it's a little scary. I did, though, let me add the next data point because it's where the hope lives. Same sequence. The next question was, okay, but would you stay, right? Could we keep you if something changed? 89% of that 71% said, yes, I would. And so that's really where in my 2021, I went straight for like, tell us more about what would make you stay, because clearly you're telling us that you plan to leave.
For sure. So before we jump into if we could meet their needs, because that was where the 89%, and I know that that's what the salon owners are dying to hear, is what are their needs that they want. You put in some interesting stuff about secrets of the job search. So kind of talk about where their perspective is when they're out there job hunting.
Yeah, well, I think what's really important for salon owners today, if I was going to give one big takeaway, it's that you have to stop thinking about hiring only when you need to hire. It's just like you don't only think about marketing for new clients when you feel like you need new guests. Like, you're always thinking about marketing because it's a function of your business. And so the same way we would not say, oh, I'm going to turn my Google AdWords off this month. I'm just not going to do that. You have to stop thinking about recruiting in that way. It really has to be a strategy, and you have to be thinking about consistent efforts all the time so that you don't land in what I call post and pray mode, which is what old hiring looked like. Oh gosh, I have nobody for a Saturday for the next 6 weeks, or oh my goodness, I lost somebody and now I have no place to put new clients or existing clients. And then we panic and we're stressed and we throw up a job, typically with a job description that is beyond generic. And this is not just the beauty industry. So I hope nobody takes personal offense to this, but if you went on Indeed right now and you looked at all job postings, it's like, oh, we're a great salon, we have amazing education. Okay, like, tell me more, please, because every single job posting for salon says those things. So we've seen this shift in the information that our workforce wants from us that allows them to feel connected to our brand and actually want to apply. It's like, imagine if they have to get through all the clutter, which clutter meaning every other salon in your community that they could possibly work at. And beyond that, every other job they could possibly take, because everybody right now is hiring. So they could probably go work somewhere making a lot more than they're going to earn working for you in their career path straight out of the gate, just because we have such a staffing shortage, like across the board right now. So I think what's important is that you get out of the mindset of post and pray. Like, you just have to stop and you have to get into, this is a strategy. I have a plan and I'm going to meet them where they are. And I'll go straight to the meet them where they are piece, which is they are on Instagram. And you need to be too. Bottom line, like, they tell us, the students say, I find you in 3 places. In 2020, they said, I find you number 1 in the schools, number 2 and 3 are tied, Instagram and Indeed. 2021, that shifted. And I'm going to just put out there first, before I tell you how it shifted, I think it's going to shift back. I think that the shift occurred because of the pandemic and the reality of what schools looked like. But in our 2021 report, they say the number 1 way I find you is Instagram. The number 2 way I find you is a school. And the number 3 way I find you is Indeed. And again, I think that's just because they weren't in the schools in the same capacity. We didn't have career fairs happening the way that they were. Like, a lot was shifting fast. So I project that's going to go backwards. But regardless, the same 3 things: Instagram, schools, and Indeed. So we've got to change how we show up and where we show up.
I love that. So you talked a lot about strategy. What have been some, successful strategies that you've seen over the years?
Yeah, the very first part of the strategy is you have to know your story. And this is like marketing 101. But again, put your recruitment marketing lens on. Who are you as a team? Because the research tells us that the number one thing they care about is a team that feels like a family, right? It's culture. They want to know, what am I walking into and who are the people and what do they care about? And am I going to like them? Are they going to like me? Are we going to vibe? So that story, I call it your magic. Like, we have to know that. And it can be challenging to articulate. It's like when somebody asks you as a human, like, hey, what are your best 5 traits? And you're like, I don't know. It's like the same question, especially when you ask it to a salon owner. I used to feel this way too. I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do I say about us? And so the strategy I would recommend, and this is one of the things I help teams do, is understand, because you survey your team, right? Like, go to the team, ask the questions that help you pull out all that magic so that you can form the right narrative, because you can't go tell a marketing story if you don't have the words and the story to tell. Then you're just posting. Again, I go back to kind of the generic now hiring signs on Instagram, and it doesn't work. So the strategy is understand the story and then start telling it in the right places. And then, of course, the third part is make sure that you're living whatever that story was, because if you do all this work and they land there and it's not the real story, nobody's hanging around.
So true. And you talked a lot on here about, the team that feels like a family. Like, they're looking for that home. 36% said a team that feels like a family is what they consider when they're considering a job. So how important, obviously, is it that, like you said, they're living those values, they're living that they are that family mentality?
It's absolutely essential. It was the same in the number one slot for the 2021 survey. Actually, the 2 things they care most about did not change. Team that feels like a family / kind of culture, right? And the ability to grow. We are employing a very savvy workforce. And I actually love this. Like, I think this is so important. And it speaks to the bigger work we have to do as an industry, which is we need to be attracting people into our industry that would otherwise be going to work at Google or Amazon or Facebook or, Apple. Like, we want the smartest, most creative, most intelligent people coming to our industry. So then if they have high standards about what they're going to expect when they get here, great. Let's figure out how to meet them. So we have this incredible talent pool. But they care a lot about, I'm going to work somewhere that feels good. Because just think, and this is previous to my research getting really honed in on like the team building, I really started with the generations, like, who are we employing? Millennials and Gen Z and all of that. If you think about that bucket and you take beauty out of it, we are living with a generation of people who care a lot about work-life balance. They say that life matters more than work, right? Like, they really want things to feel good. And so then you bring that into beauty, into them telling us that they care most about this culture piece. They want to come somewhere that they feel like helps them thrive and builds their general life satisfaction and happiness. And they equate that to the people they're going to work around. And I can't say I can dispute that, because if I work around a team I love, it's like my happiest time. It's like fantastic. If the team's not really on the same vibe as me, and I think as a salon owner or leader, you can think of this: when you've had your best team, you're probably your happiest. Like, you feel your best when you can genuinely say, like, my team's amazing, I love them. So that's what they want too. They have the same expectation.
I love that you said standards and expectations, because in your survey from 2020, you talked about mastering the interview and the things that they expect during an interview. And I know that sometimes, like you said, we post that job, it's generic. They come in for the interview and we're instantly like, you're hired because we need a body for Saturday. Like, that's just, we skip over all of that. But there's so much information here that you provided about things that they want to know when they come to the interview. So what are some of those things that they're looking for as salon owners that we share with them?
Yeah. I think the 2 things that jump at me the most in terms of what we have to change. When I talk to salon owners, I know we're not doing this now. And again, this is not just industry specific. because the problem lives everywhere. But the biggest thing they talked about was, I want to know my compensation. I want to have a better understanding of compensation at interview one. In fact, if you can tell me more about it before I even decide to apply, it would increase the likelihood that I might apply for an actual job that's a good fit for me. Because we hear a lot about ghosting, what used to just be part of the dating world and, the Tinders and, Bumbles, but it's happening in employment now in recruiting. And it's because the level of transparency they expect and the information they want to have pre-interview one is high. So if they don't have that, then they either freak out and don't show up, right? They just decide like, nope, it's probably not gonna be a fit for me. Or they show up for that first interview and then they do learn a little bit, or worse, they learn not enough. And then they don't show up for the second. And we thought they were this great candidate. We're gonna see them again. And oh, we were so excited. So we've got to get really transparent about compensation. They want to know about compensation in terms of like average paycheck. I thought that was really interesting. We talk a lot about, here's your hourly rate or here's your commission. But for many of the people we're employing, this is their first or second job. Like, they don't really understand how that translates to their life. So if we can bring it down and say, look, here's what you're going to earn on average each paycheck, or here's what you're going to earn monthly for the first 6 months, the first year, then they can start to think about that in terms of their bills. And that makes way more sense to them than, I'm going to have 35 hours a week and make $10 an hour. Like, you've just got to break it down. So get really clear on comp, and very transparent. And let me just, before I add the next point, say, just go into your software and pull trends. Look historically, what does somebody make when they work for me the first 6 months? Like, pull your payroll reports for the last 5 hires and ask yourself, what have they earned, so that you can actually give accurate numbers, because you have this data. Like, it lives inside of your system and your business. So that, and then the second thing I would tell you is flexibility. They want to know schedule, and they want to know how that relates to flexibility. Time off, is it paid? Can I request it? When do I get it? In the 2021 report, I asked about when they expect to have paid time off, and it is dramatic. They're like, I'm not going to say the number because I'm going to get it wrong because these are new stats, but it was like over 80% of them said, I expected in the first year that I would have paid time off. And here we've been this industry that doesn't usually offer paid time off year one. But now they're like, yeah, I think I should have it. I'm like, okay, we have to figure this out.
Wow, that's crazy. What a shift for the industry, for sure. Because like you said, we've been an industry that's just not something that's been part of it. It's just not. That's crazy. That's number one. That's like I said, why when we were talking about this, I'm like, I have to have Stefani on, because this is her wheelhouse. Like and I love that you released a very thorough report for 2020, and I'm super excited for the one 2021 to see what those shifts are. But you said to be transparent and talk compensation before the interview. So what would you envision that to look like?
I think it's making sure that your job posting has comp ranges on it. We don't always do that, or unfortunately, we aren't always honest about comp ranges. Like, we bucket in tips and things to make it look like their hourly is higher. And, we just need to be clear. It's hourly plus tips. And on average, it's this. So I think that making sure that there's a place in your job posting that talks comp. And then I'm a huge advocate of having an incredibly robust team and career section on your website that's very easily accessible from your Instagram. Think about today's behavior of a consumer, take employee out of it. Just think of a consumer, like, we click on something and we expect to get to the information really easily. So now go back to the employee. That employee is that consumer. Like, you've got to make it so easy. If we know they're going to your Instagram, then what's the link on the Instagram that makes it super easy for them to get to that team page? And then on the team page, here's the existing team. And then, by the way, here's our career section. And in our career section, we have these great job descriptions of all the things we hire for. And here's what those people earn, right? And here's a video of me, the salon owner, or me, the salon leader, talking about what growth inside of this business looks like and how we accelerate team and some of our top performers, and like, suck them in, like, be a marketer for what is best about you, including what you compensate, what that growth looks like.
And I love that you talked about growth and putting, I think the personal touch of the salon owner on the website is such a fantastic idea. But you also talked about a training program, and that ties into their growth. So what are
Yeah.
they looking for in terms of, okay, so I've accepted, I'm interested in working in your salon. What is my growth? What do I want? What are they looking for?
Yeah. This one literally, like when you ask the question, it like gives me chills because here's one of the biggest challenges that we have in our industry right now. The perception of the team we're hiring, students and stylists, honestly, is they want to be somewhere further in their earnings and in their skill than we realistically can get them at the speed that they want to be there. So let me just break that down so it makes sense. They're telling us, I don't want a training program that's longer than 3 months, but I think I should earn $35,000 to $45,000 year one. So I don't really know many salons, including the massive, wildly successful businesses that have a strong enough marketing funnel that they can pump in enough new clients that are going to stay because your talent is just so great, right? Like this new talent is so good that they retain at, the 60% plus, that you can earn $35,000 to $45,000 year one. Realistically, there's very few brands that I've ever worked with that can make that happen. So we've got this miss. On the other side of that, if you ask them directly, would they be employed by a location that required a 1-year training program? They also say yes. Like about 50% of them will say yes, but they tell you that their preference is in that 90-day mark. So I think as an industry, we have a lot of work around educating, starting in the schools as the salons that come in and talk, and then even beyond. What does it look like to get to the place of being talented? Let's get transparent about compensation and what growth really looks like on average. What are you earning month 1, month 2, month 3, right? And how does your retention impact that? Like we've just got to start teaching them. And if we want to attract candidates that ultimately become 6-figure hairdressers, we have to recognize we are attracting a savvy person. So they're going to want to know this information, and they're going to want to know that they're landing in a brand that can get them there. So we've just got to start breaking it down and then getting, thankfully technology helps us train more efficiently. We've got to get our existing team members on board. You've got to get into that no more than 6-month mark, really, and you've got to do a lot of educating to even get them to want to commit to that, because they don't want to be in training very long. They really want to be working on people.
Absolutely. So let's kind of talk about the benefits that they're looking for. And I love, like I said, again, there's percentages, like you guys, the information that she has is phenomenal. So as they think about pay, you kind of hit on that a little bit, but let's kind of talk about what realistically they're expecting fresh out of school or when they join your salon, and what benefits, are the most important, because typically, just like paid time off, not many salons offer a full range of benefits. It's, we're kind of, I think we're shifting in that direction. I think a lot, I definitely think that we're a little behind on that, but we're making the shift. So what are some things that upcoming stylists are looking for as far as pay and benefits?
Yeah, so they're definitely from a percentage range in terms of compensation. They want to start in the 40% range when they come out of school. They're really looking to be about that 45 to 50% range once they're within like 3 years, because they're leaving us on average at 2.8 years for their kind of rental reality, if we haven't done whatever it is that they're hoping we do to keep them, right? So they want to start in that 40% range and or earn the equivalent of $35,000 to $45,000. So depending on how you pay, like you've got to get that figure in your mind and back into that as a business, based on your pricing structure, the transactions you can drive, the retention they're capable of, like how do you really get them there? So they care about that. They care about healthcare. And what we see is that they're saying they would take a job without health benefits, but they also will leave your business because you don't offer it. And this makes perfect sense if you think about the age range we employ. They're coming out, they're on their parents' insurance, they're in their low 20, 18 to 23 probably. And then by the time they're leaving us, they're thinking about a different reality of their life. They may be thinking about children. They may be just like aging out of an insurance for a parent. So if we don't have that available for them at the point that they're in that phase of life, then they're thinking, I've got to leave, right? I've got to find a different solution. Non-traditional benefits, we could think about that they said that they would be really interested in are things like free monthly massages, chiropractic care, pedicures, like things that you're like, oh, like, okay, like this is exciting for me because I could do trades, right? This could be more feasible in my business than paying for healthcare. I do want to give a plug though to the Pro Beauty Association, because personally, I went that route for healthcare benefits, and it is unbelievably affordable in comparison to other healthcare benefit options that you find as a small business owner. So check out the Pro Beauty Association for healthcare benefits if you need that solution for your team. You know, I have 2 little boys, and I think for myself and my 2 little boys, I was in like the mid 300 range for a policy, which when I was going through chambers or trying to get private health insurance for myself or my team, I was in the $800 to $1,000 range a month for insurance per person. Like, it was insane. So definitely check out the Pro Beauty Association if you're not offering healthcare benefits. And, you know, go to local people in your community. If you offer massage, of course, you can figure that out in your own business. But if you don't, find a local business that does and figure out trades, you know, and use that as like a write-off and be able to offer an employee perk. Do it with a chiropractor. I host clubhouses all the time, and I had a clubhouse with a chiropractic team talking about like that. And I actually had a team that I work with, Bella Style Salon. They're in Louisiana. They tested this for me. I said, look, go talk to your local chiropractors. Let's get some feedback on the conversation. And it works, because all these small business owners, they need perks too. So you can do trades that way. You know, we are employing a savvier workforce. We want a savvier workforce. We have to show up as businesses that offer the same things they're going to get in other businesses. Healthcare, 401ks, IRAs, some sort of savings, additional perks and benefits. Like, we've got to show up with it. And I recognize how hard that is. Like, trust me firsthand as a small business owner and, you know, having a salon for 9 years, I know that finding the money to make those things possible is like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to do this? Especially if you're new, like in those first few years, but you've got to get creative. And you also have to think about evaluating all things in your business to make sure you have better profitability so you can do these things, or you will not attract team and you will not retain team, and you're not going to grow anyway. So you've really got to dive in and not be afraid to look at your business holistically and ask how to afford this, so that you can get the talent you need.
Love that. You got to think outside the box. I love that. You know, find your local chiropractor, find something that you're not offering, and just trade. I think that's brilliant. So as far as like growth, like so, you know, and I'm not just talking training growth, but like, how often, like, are they expecting us as managers or salon owners to like give them feedback? Are they looking for one-on-ones? Are they looking to just come in, be behind the chair and leave? And that's what they want.
Yeah, so of course there's always a blend, but if we speak majority, yes to the feedback. In fact, both in the survey that I do and then in my private consulting work, I conduct surveys inside of teams, and never once of all the surveys that I've done has any answer come back that isn't, yes, please give me coaching regularly. Like, there is a question that I ask that basically says, like, how frequently do you want your coaching? And they're like, all the time. Like, at least once a month formally, and otherwise all the time. And it's consistent with every brand. I'm always just astounded, like, well, I know the answer to that question. Like, every time it's going to be the same. And they tell us, like, yes, I want your feedback because I recognize you're going to help me grow. But I think what parallels that and what you have to make sure exists in your brand is this data point, which is like a big piece of work for all of us. 91% of them want their boss to feel like their friend and to give them professional feedback. So unpack that a little bit. And basically what they're saying is, I want you to help me grow, but if I don't think that you're my friend, which when I did unpack that in the research, that meant you're connected to me, I feel like you respect me, there's trust between us, we can communicate. Basically, we're in relationship, right? If that's not proceeding, all that growth feedback you're giving me, like, don't even bother, because I'm not listening to you. I don't trust you. I don't think you have my best interest at heart. You're all about the numbers. Like, that's when that dialogue starts. and you're just wasting your time. And then you're just a frustrated leader feeling like they're not listening or they don't care. So I tell any leader I work with, if you're getting the vibe or even the direct feedback, it's all about the numbers. You have to step way back and go into relationship mode. And that has to proceed. And with your new hires, don't start hounding numbers in the first 90 days. You can talk about expectations and you can share KPIs and goals, but you don't need to be holding people hard accountable to performance until you've built the relationship that warrants the feedback is trusted, right? That the feedback is here because I care about you and I want you to grow and I want you to reach $100,000 income for yourself, not because it's about me and my business and our revenue. And that's where they go with it. And honestly, look at our reality. We have employees, and then we have all these suites. And the suites are doing a hell of a job marketing the story of be your own business owner and make the most money. Like they're doing such a good job. Like I tell everybody that I know, like sign up for Sola's marketing and you're going to just see exactly what you're up against. Like they're telling the exact narrative that the workforce wants to hear. So make sure that you're adding that element that they can't get over there, which is that connected leader that can be part of the growth, that can be part of helping them excel, that can be part of reaching that first $100,000, revenue. Like you've just got to switch it up a little bit and not be so focused on the numbers, thinking that's how you're going to grow, because the relationship actually precedes that. And they tell us that very clearly.
Which ties kind of into, what have you seen as far as their lifestyle expectations? Like, what are they, we even kind of started the call with like work-life balance. Like that's super important.
Yeah.
Now, my generation, we weren't so much of a work-life balance. It was more of like work. Like that's just what you did. And we've definitely seen the shifts, and expectations are a little different with employees and what that looks like. So what have you seen?
Yeah, this is one that honestly I am working on a lot, because number one, what they want is flexibility. In fact, it was the top reason they said they leave us in the 2020 survey was, I want flexibility. So when you think about flexibility in an industry like ours, that's primarily appointment based, and then you look outside of our industry at what's happening and what they're consuming, there's all these jobs available, and I don't know that I would call them careers, but some people are making them careers where you can just work on demand, right? And then look at what the pandemic did to all careers, basically, that were office careers. It added massive flexibility. And then you come back and laser in on the beauty industry and nothing's changed, because people show up in our space to see us with an appointment. So they're living in this world where everywhere they look around them, people have a level of flexibility they can't enjoy. Literally, we have to ask ourselves, like, how could we ever match that? I mean, people have to come to our space. They have to have an appointment most of the time. Otherwise, they're not going to get in. Like, it's a big, heavy lift for us to think about. And so I'm thinking about it a lot, trust me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got to find a way to help them feel like they have a level of flexibility that at least gives them the comfort and emotion that they're feeling attached to when they look at other people's level of flexibility. The brands that I know that do it best are brands that are very open about letting them have a big say in their schedule. So instead of the reality being, I'm the business owner, these are the productivity hours I have to fill, you have to fit into one of my buckets. It's more like, I'm going to hire staff and they can fit into wherever they fit. And it's my job to figure out who's going to fit into the next bucket. Like, not so much, here's the structure and fit in or leave. Now, let me just say, I'm not saying you have to give them full control, but you do have to give them the sense that they have a say in when they work and what that looks like. It also means that time off requests, there's an expectation that they should be honored, that if I want time off, I should be able to take it. And so we have to think about that as a business owner. How do we make sure that we cover the business needs and still allow for them to have the time that they want? Because again, go outside of beauty, there's a boatload of flexibility for time off. And just like, oh, I need to run to a doctor's appointment, I'm just going to block my calendar for the next hour because I work remotely and I can, like they see this. And so we, again, are in competition with people like Apple or Facebook or these other brands that are employing candidates that we would like to have in our businesses. And they're going to go into those businesses and get those perks. And so we just have to think a little bit creatively. Something else brands do that I love, and one that's just spearheaded this, and she's doing a great job. She's created a schedule cycle where every third week they have 5 days in a row off. Now, that might be like, oh my gosh, how do you even do that? But it is possible. She's got a brand that's doing over $1 million a year in sales in a very small town, and she employs 14 service providers. Like, they're nailing it. And every 3 weeks, they have 5 days in a row off, the way that their schedule works. And so then they don't request as much vacation, or they add a day here and a day there, because now you have 7 days and you've only really taken 2 days off, and the business is accounted for that. So we have to get savvier and think about that so that we can allow them the flexibility they're asking for.
I love that. What are some other things that, as a salon owner, that we can do to really gain that loyalty and that commitment to us?
I think the biggest thing you can focus on is developing the bench strength of your leaders, because they tell us they pick us because of the team, right? They want to be in a place that they feel like there's the culture and the family vibe that they care about. And then, of course, like all data, go outside of Talent Match's data, go to Gallup. That's, one of my favorite resources for big data. We know they leave us because of the leadership and the management. So if we know that they're asking us to be their friend and their leader, that's hard. So we need to be better skilled in order to do that, because it is not easy as a leader. It's not like this innate skill to be like, yeah, I'm going to be your friend, and then I'm going to give you this feedback. That's really hard because you're not performing well. So we've got to, as an industry, I think we have to take our leadership strengths way up. And we have to think about how we cultivate the relationships, because the relationship is going to be one of the primary drivers that keep them. And if we can drive that relationship, and we're willing and open to expand and flex in our businesses to adapt to things like flexibility and talking more transparently about compensation and offering them the perks and benefits that they're saying matter to them, if we can do those things in tandem, then we have a greater chance of keeping them longer. And I'm not saying longer is forever. I think that's something we have to get rid of in our brains, honestly. I think longer is 5 years, 7 years, hopefully not 2.8, because that just hurts. Like, we can't even earn a profit in our business on them at that point most of the time. So there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of business model consideration and how our businesses expand and what beauty looks like. It's really massively shifted, and the consumer preferences have shifted and the workforce has shifted. So I think as business leaders, we just got to lean in and say, okay, how do I make sure that I evolve and that I don't get stuck thinking that what I've always done is what has to happen, and that there's this resistance to anything changing?
Speaking of evolving and technology, I guess you could say, talk a little bit about what your secret project has been.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, I've done all this research, and it was like, wow, like, they're telling us all the things they want to know. And this primary piece is this culture piece, which again is this massively heavy lift to understand. And when we interview people, us determining if they fit our culture is like just as hard as somebody asking us, what is our culture? It's like, it's awful. We're not trained on it. We're not skilled at this. So I saw this data and I'm like, this is an algorithm. This is an incredibly important piece of information that we have to basically take from a manual experience and be able to automate. And so I have hired a development team, and the brand is called Matchable. And what Matchable is going to do is it is going to take that heavy lift for salon owners and for the workforce, because they're equally as overwhelmed when it comes to finding the right salon. It's going to match you guys. And so all of the data has been built in around the filtering, basically, what they say they care about and what they want to know, and everything from comp to culture to aesthetic and vibe, like so many data points. And basically it's assessment based. You fill out an assessment, they fill out an assessment, and we're going to ping you just like a dating app would and say, hey, you've got 3 new matches today. And you'll be able to look at their profile. They'll be able to look at yours and make it really easy to say, I'd like to interview you. Or even them say, I would like to interview with you. My goal and what I'm excited about Matchable doing is it's going to take the power away from just the workforce, and it's going to put it into the salon owner's hands, because you're actually going to have a database of talent to search through. And right now, all you can do is post a job and pray that they apply. So this is going to actually let you look at all their profiles and know, like, they're a match for my brand. I can invite them to interview with me. So we are going to be beta launching, and this is all pending the developers, but beta launch is scheduled for January of 2022. So I'm very excited.
That is so awesome, Stephanie. What final advice do you have for salon owners out there looking for talent?
Well, the first thing I would say on the advice realm is, I know how overwhelming this is. And if you're in the place that you currently feel overwhelmed, the first thing you've got to do is reset. Because if you're coming from that perspective, this work is going to feel so hard and so heavy. And my personal experience is that when things feel hard and heavy, I procrastinate the hell out of them. And so you may or may not relate to that, but that's typically our human behavior and response. So, I would just say, recenter on why you're doing any of this in the first place, right? Like, why do you own a salon? Why do you lead in a salon? Why do you manage a salon? Why is this so important to you? Like, you've got to get back to that level of joy and power. And if you have that, then you can get started on new strategy. And I would just invite anybody, first of all, follow me on Instagram, Steph, STEF_Fox. I put tons of these data points out, and constantly I'm trying to just give everybody the information that comes from this research. And then if you want some support, I'd love to support you. You've got to get into that team piece and understanding that narrative. Again, like, what is the story? So you can go tell the story. And you can find, I have an online course you guys can find on my website, talentmatch.biz, or on my Instagram. And then I also do private work, because I know some brands are like, oh, I don't want to take the online course. Like, please just do this with me. And that's on my website too. So I think the advice is honestly, like, get recentered, know why you're doing this, and then start uncovering that story so you can go tell it.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. You are always a wealth of knowledge. We look forward to Matchable and the 2021 survey that's coming out. So again, thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you. And I would just also tell people, if you guys want that survey, it is on my website for free download. So if you go to talentmatch.biz, there's a little gold box in the top right-hand corner. You can get all the information that Sean's been talking about. And I'll have the 2021 updated here, hopefully in the next week or so, because it's getting wrapped up today.
Awesome. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.